Okay, so we will first, of course, we're focusing mainly on tree planting, but because it's our first event of this kind and because we haven't actually connected with any of you for so long, we thought we'd start with a very quick introduction of what we do with EcoEd 2030 and also our team itself. So I am Pauline von Hellermann. I'm an Eastbourne resident, but also an anthropologist teaching at Goldsmith and currently researching palm oil. And other people in our team, I will quickly identify. Next to me here on my screen is Oliver Sterno, who, if you would like to raise your hand, perhaps, Oliver. Oliver Sterno, many of you in Eastbourne will know, who magnificently runs Plastic-Free Eastbourne. Then we have Rafe Lucas, and who with Antonia Lucas did the great sort of Making Natural History event in November, which actually gave us the idea to be running this event here. And then also Vicky, who was one of the founding members right at the beginning and is over there. And I can see Roshina, who works on food education. And also, of course, Jim, sorry, you're right in front, in the middle here, who is one of the councillors and was also one of the founding members for this. And Linda Solway, who is runs the Eastbourne School Partnership and is at Eastbourne College. So I'm going to start with a little presentation about EcoEd 2030. And so from the beginning, in terms of what we're actually doing here. The reason why we're doing all this is, of course, that we climate change, and just as this chart here shows, whilst we would be normally without humans in the world be going through a cooling period, at the moment we're going through an extremely hot and increasingly hot period because of rapidly rising CO2 levels, which you can see here on this chart. And as we all know, at the moment, temperatures, if we continue with the way things are at the moment, temperatures are predicted to rise between 2 to 5% degrees by the end of this century, which will have drastic and bad consequences for all of us. At the moment already, some of the most vulnerable and least responsible are already being affected, but it will eventually affect all of us, including all our children and grandchildren, unless we really take action right now. So in terms of what we need, we have a lot of debates between whether we need whether we need action at government level or at individual lifestyle changes. But at EcoEd 2030, we believe that really you need changes at all levels at the same time. As you can see from our flyer here, we need government action, which is the most important, and we have a lot of crucial events at the moment, like the Environment Bill, the G7 meeting in Cornwall last week, and of course COP26 coming up in November in Glasgow. And all these events are ultimately the most important in terms of making real far-reaching and rapid changes. But individual lifestyle and individuals also make a difference. First of all, in signaling that we are ready and that we will elect politicians who make these changes, but also, of course, any legislation that is introduced to be successful needs broad popular support. So all these levels do matter, but in between town level, local infrastructure changes and initiatives like Eastbourne Carbon Neutral 2030 also are important in bringing about sort of level changes at different levels, and so are schools. Now schools I've highlighted here, not only because that's what we do and what I'm talking about today, but also because we do think they are actually absolutely crucial for two reasons. One is that the school's sort of own institutional footprint is very important. If we manage to get all Eastbourne schools to become carbon neutral, then that in itself, as the way that schools are run, and that in itself already makes a big difference. But also because schools are catalysts for making wider changes in the community in terms of values and knowledge and practices. So this is why we really think that schools are absolutely crucial in bringing about sort of fast changes in how we interact and how we can bring down carbon emissions. But of course, schools are very, as we all know, under-resourced and also overworked, and especially now with COVID. So it's a huge burden for schools to be asked to make all this, to play this role as catalysts. And this is where EcoEd 2030 comes in. So what we do at EcoEd 2030 is basically, we ourselves are somewhat small and also run by volunteers. So we mainly see ourselves and are facilitators between and higher education institutions as a whole, and also and between providers, because of course, as we know, there are already a lot of brilliant organizations who've been working in this field for many years, who have lots of good projects and ideas and great people working for them. But it is not easy for them to establish contact with schools. And likewise for schools, it's not easy to receive a lot of emails and requests. So that's really where we come in and where we see ourselves as a facilitator between schools and existing providers. And the first project, and then what we do then is to run these sort of events like the one today, but we also then provide wider support in continuing to facilitate and support local projects, and also provide funding and help with funding wherever we can. We also have a website, which I'm sorry, this is the rest of my slides are not really coming up, but we do have a website with a lot of resources as well, where our talks today will also be uploaded, and where all of this is sort of just provided, designed to help schools in and make it as easy as possible to work with providers and to make changes. And so the first event today now to lead up is on tree planting. And the next one, I think in the autumn, will be on energy providers. But today we're starting with tree planting. And I'm going to go to stop share now. The first, I'm very happy to introduce, first of all, Treeborn, Jules and Adam from Treeborn, who are going to be talking about a local tree planting project here. Then after that, we have Amanda Bronkhurst from Just One Tree, who's Amanda, if you're there. And then after that, Ian Elgie, who's going to be talking about his Mvula and tree planting project in Uganda.